Go. All right, welcome, all you wrestling fans, to the 20th episode, big 2-0 today of the Pop-Up Powerbomb podcast. I'm your host, the Breathtaking one, Spooky. Joining me tonight, of course, is Powerbomb Paul. Some know him as Pineapple Powerbomb Paul. And tonight, fans, we share our thoughts on some real interesting topics. A lot happened over this weekend in the wrestling world, especially WWE universe. We had Survivor Series, of course, where we saw both the big returns of Randy Orton after being out for almost 2 years, and he almost didn't make it back. Back fusion surgery, looked fantastic. Looked like he actually got a little bit bigger muscle-wise. I think he probably was told by his doctors too as well, because the muscle would help sustain and protect his back with the bumps and stuff. But he looked great. CM Punk also returned to WWE when it looked like no one wanted him. He also looked like he had put on a bit of bulk as well. He definitely looked bigger underneath that white shirt he was wearing. So we're going to get into that. Also, we're going to touch on AEW. I put posts out there. I think they might be in some big trouble. I'm not talking financial trouble or anything like that. I just think they're in some big trouble unless some major changes start to happen. I see them currently on their way to the WCW graveyard. And they need help. But we've got a bit more for you too. We're also going to start this with a little new topic that was given to me just before the show by our great friend, the man, the myth, the legend, Carlo. Sent me something in the DMs, so I'm going to touch on that too. But hope you're all ready, buckled in, got your beverages, got your snacks, and let's get ready for some story time with the Breathtaking one and the Powerbomb Pineapple Paul. So let's get into it.
I swear to God, I'm going to outlaw pineapple. I'm going to become like Emperor Supreme and outlaw pineapples.
You should call yourself Supreme Pizza. Supreme Pizza Paul. Supreme Chicken Paul. Oh, no, this pineapple business. How you been, brother, anyway?
I've been doing pretty good. You know,
that's the way.
I thought the pay-per-view had its ups and downs. You know what? Match for match, it pretty much did exactly what you and I said it was going to do.
Yeah, the two standout matches were the women's and the men's War Games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it later, but the whole thing with the LWO, what did not go as they had planned, and I'm going to talk about what I think they're going to do with that because of that, and why the angry one won.
Yeah, the angry one, yeah. The one I loved your I see your Twitter post about what he came out wearing, Santos, and you're like, oh no,
the rug, yeah.
I thought,
dude, it's an area rug, man. Come on,
it does, yeah, it did. But no,
it doesn't look like a poncho. It looks like an area rug.
It does. But like, I agree with you. It was a pretty good pay-per-view. I think the rest of the matches, though, as we probably can both admit, were a little bit filler to the men's and women's War Games. The whole pay-per-view was basically surrounded. It was built up around those two War Games matches, which both War Games matches, which we'll get into, they were fantastic in my opinion. Some great stuff happened there. But first and foremost, Carlo sent me this, and me and you both remember this, and you old school wrestling heads will remember this name. Former WWF superstar from all the way back here, I would say the late 80s, 90s era. She's also a Hall of Famer. Tammy Sunny Sitch has been sentenced to 17 years total in prison. 8 years of probation. Yeah, she's definitely does not look like the Sunny that we all remember from back in the day. That is for damn sure.
It was 40 years ago, dude. Let it go.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, she ever since the spotlight has been off of her, she really, her whole life's taken a turn for the worse, and she's been a complete mess. She's anytime she has come up in the news, it's usually been for something and getting in trouble with the police as such. And yeah, life just kind of went down the toilet, basically.
Well, with this, she's going to get her own Dark Side of the Ring episode, dude.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. And the sad thing about this is it took a fully preventable tragedy to finally lock her behind bars. And for quite some time, 17 years, she might get out 8. She might get out in 8 with very strict probation if she behaves herself. But I also know her health's also been up and down. So it wouldn't come as a shock before it got to even the halfway point of this sentence if she passed away in jail. It wouldn't come as a shock. She's been heavily in to drugs and alcohol and the like. So it's sad from where she once was. She was one of the bright spots. I think she managed Shawn Michaels for quite some time there in his earlier days. We're talking pre-DX days. A lot of men tuned in for her. But, this is all from, for those that don't know, she killed a guy. So this is, it's very sad to see this. And she's probably been one of the worst of them. We've seen a bunch of older wrestlers where, they've hit rock bottom, and the likes, like a Jake Roberts hit rock bottom there for a while. He's come good. Scott Hall hit rock bottom for quite some time, and he came good just before his passing.
Jake the Snake has managed to pull himself, I believe.
Yeah, he has. But, some of these people, like, once they leave the spotlight and the spotlight's off them, they really don't know what to do, and especially more so in the wrestling world. Like these men and women, this is all they know. And when that spotlight's no longer with them, they kind of, I won't say all of them, a lot of them just sort of waste away, and some in trouble with the law, and some hit drugs and alcohol, and they just don't know what to do with themselves anymore. Of course, you've had some good stories of what some superstars do once they retire, like a Trish Stratus and Diamond Dallas Page with their yoga and fitness stuff, and so there is the good with the bad as well. But a sad day for Tammy and
I don't think you've said what it was, but just in case anybody who may not know what it was she 17 years for DUI and manslaughter.
Yes. So that's what it means. Yeah, she basically killed somebody, obviously without being murder, it's again, this is, a lot of people have made the comment, don't do drugs is what happens, and another one I know that's I don't know when his court stuff comes up, but Ted DiBiase Jr., the son of the $1 Million Man, he's been in a lot of trouble. He's been in a lot of trouble. Yeah, he is in a lot of trouble himself. Obviously, not murder or manslaughter charges, different kind of charges, but and it's unfortunate, but it happens.
Because I hadn't seen I looked up the article after you started talking about it, but I'm looking at it. Her BAA blood alcohol level was. Oh, this is not. I'm surprised she was walking. Point 280. Okay?
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah, the legal limit is 0.08.
Most of us said would be that limit, bro. We'd be legless. We'd be in a chair. Like. Haven't got my legs underneath me. I'm not going nowhere. I'll just keep sitting here, drinking a beer, but. Yeah, good God.
But as a side note, THC was also found in her blood, so she was probably high as well.
Yeah.
But too bad somebody had to lose their life for her to.
Exactly. As I said, she's had a string of, offences. All sorts of sort of minor sort of things leading up to this, and that is the sad part for her to actually finally she kept getting slaps on the wrist basically, and
Right.
this was obviously the straw that broke the camel's back finally, and it's just sad, like you said, someone had to lose their life. And
By the way, this was a plea deal, so it could have got a lot worse if she.
Well, yeah, I mean, realistically, she probably should be made to serve out the full 17 years, but yeah, she's lucky. I mean, 8 years is still a fair stretch anyway, regardless.
Yep.
And
well,
yeah,
especially,
I
I mean, if she was a diva in the '80s, so yeah,
when I seen the picture initially, I'm like, huh? I had to really look at her face. I'm like, oh my god, that is Sunny. Like, I was like, wow.
Yeah. I haven't looked up a picture of what she looks like now. For those wondering, her real name is Tammy Sitch, Sitch.
But no, she blew up, bro. Really blew up like a balloon. That's the best way to describe it. Yeah. Yeah, as I said, she definitely didn't. Which, I mean, it happens as you get older. You put on one, but I mean, she really, compared to what we're all used to seeing with her, yeah, she got extremely good.
And I've got to say that wrestling in particular seems to be nicer to the male stars when they retire, as far as they can get into commentating or doing interviews, or like Stone Cold has his show that he does.
Yes.
And you don't really see that with the females very much. You don't see the females coming back.
No, not at all. Not in that sense. As I said, like, you've got some of those females that have gone out to do other things. As I said, Trisha's big in the yoga and fitness world.
Right.
She does that. So, but not like coming back to actually do something. You're not wrong. Coming back to actually do something wrestling, like whether it be podcast or, color commentary
they may still do con appearances.
That's the one thing I haven't seen with it. You know what? Now that you brought it up, I would like to see that one day. We haven't really seen. I can't think off the top of my head, so correct me if you have seen it. I don't think I've seen any female commentator in any promotion. I
don't think I have either.
No.
And in fact, you're right. I don't think they're. And you watch more of the promotions than I do, but
yeah, I can't recollect.
No AEW, no WWE.
Yeah, not
even for interviewing stuff. I don't think.
No.
Oh well, they do. I think WWE does have one backstage female.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's a bit more common, like having them as backstage interviewers. Bray Wyatt's wife, for example, was a backstage interviewer for a while. That JoJo Offerman. And I know on NXT and WWE, they have them backstage, but I haven't seen. To my knowledge, I've never seen any of these promotions from WWE, AEW, Impact/TNA, New Japan, and a bunch of. I've never seen them have a female presence at the commentary table.
No, especially and like I said, once they retire out of the ring, you never see them again.
No,
No,
you're not wrong. Sable hasn't been seen since she stopped. We know she's Brock Lesnar's wife, but that's about it. The only time you've seen her is she was popping up obviously in the crowd to watch her husband in UFC, and that was it.
Right.
And yeah, I've seen it on the odd occasion, and it's just for like a match, like if a female match is coming out, I've seen them put the female on commentary. We've seen that, but I don't really count that because they're generally in a feud with the person that's in one of the females that's in the ring, and that's the only reason they're being brought out on commentary. So that's not exactly being basically a full-time, even a part-time commentator. And I'd like to see it eventually. I'd like to see it. It'd be different.
So, and except for like the Fabulous Moolah when she showed up in Drop Top in a pay-per-view way back in the 90s.
Yeah.
We hardly ever see them come back after they retire like we do like John Cena, The Rock, all those guys. They come back, they do special matches and stuff or make special appearances. You don't see a whole lot of that with the females.
No. I mean, the most recently, we seen Trish do that comeback, but then she hadn't been around or bothered to come back like before that since she retired. And it was only because, obviously, they wanted to do a program with her and Becky that she came back. But if that wasn't planned, well, then we could sit here and say they still wouldn't have done it, So, and Lita came back in that feud at the start, but it was a blink of an eye thing, and that was it.
Right.
So, yeah, you're not wrong. But hopefully that may change in the future, or maybe.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Because I'm not saying it's a reason or excuse, but it does seem like the females especially are lost and forgotten once they're out.
Yeah, they are. They are. You know, and at least even with the males, even if they're not on the screen, they're still spoken about in some light, whereas the females kind of don't even have their name even dropped or mentioned. So yeah, hopefully eventually that changes. But first little quick topic before we unravel everything else. For people that may have been wondering why WWE hired Jade Cargill and have had her show her face a few times on the television, Triple H has opened up as to why she has yet to make her actual debut. So, you know, as we know, while she arrived with much fanfare, she's yet to make her in-ring debut. So Triple H got asked this question apparently at the post Survivor Series press conference, and he said, and I quote, I have no less belief in her now than I did when we signed her, adding that her development has taken precedence ahead of her debut. It's interesting, when she came in, we talked with her about her development and where she would land, but where the development was at that point, I want to make sure that no matter what is thrown at Jade, she's ready, and at no fault of her own. I think that she was very limited in that before coming to us. Cargill, as we know, has made appearances on Raw, NXT and SmackDown, teasing future showdowns with the likes of Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch and the like. However, there remains a degree of uncertainty over when and where she will eventually land full time. Triple H also explained the exposure of the former AEW star, saying, we exposed her, we made her be seen, people are understanding and they're waiting and they're excited for her to come. And when she does, it's going to be massive. He reasoned that he didn't want a never-seen-before pitch to throw Cargill ahead of her big moment, so they are waiting to ensure she knows what to do no matter what her position. The CCO further remarked that even without stepping in a WWE ring, there are several would-be dream matches for her in the works. He believes she is a star, but is in no rush to throw her into the spotlight. I'm glad for one he came out and said something, because I know there'd be many a fan question like, okay, you've showed her and that. Well, I mean, what are you doing with her? You've signed her, but what are you doing with her? But I'm glad he explained it, and I'm all for this, because me and you discussed, she has a great look. She, I believe, can be a big player, a star for them in the female division. But her development in AEW was hindered. It was crap. We both said numerous times, she's green. And I think that finally she's actually getting the proper attention she needs. And like I said, she's like a child. She's like a sponge. She wants to learn. She wants to get better. And I think that's why WWE's taken a slower approach with her, because they want to make sure that that greenness is out of her, and when they debut her, you know, that there's not going to be any fans coming back and saying, oh, she's sloppy or she's too green, what are you doing? They're probably also trying to decide where better to debut her, and again, me and you've talked about.
I'm thinking they're going to put her on Friday or Monday. If they're going to work with her this hard to get her ready, it's not going to be NXT.
No, I think they're going to move her up straight to the main roster. I think they're just going to take their time in doing it. I mean, right now, is not a good time to really debut her per se, because there's a lot of storylines going on and she just doesn't fit anywhere right at this point in time. However, I think when they know that she's ready, and hopefully, because she's been signed to them for a while and she's been working her ass off, I know, daily at the Performance Center with the likes of Cody Rhodes and more. Natalia, I think, is another one. Maybe they inject her into a big program on her debut with Rhea Ripley, because you'd have one big, you know, I'm talking about their build here, one big woman against another big woman going at it, you know, and she could be very believable at being the person to take Rhea down, you know. So maybe that's what they're holding off. Let Rhea have a few of these feuds, get it out of the way, and that might be how they debut her. But look, I've got no problem with the approach they're taking. I said the whole time that She needs work. She knew herself that she needed work, and again, I believe the talent's there. She just needed to improve. And they're probably doing mic skill work with her as well. Like she's probably right now, for the first time in her career, got the best of the best people to work with to really help her on this journey and get her to where she needs to be. So I don't think it is a situation that they need to rush. I really don't. What's your thoughts on it, brother?
Pretty much the same. Like you said, they got a lot going on right now, and especially with the return of a certain person that, but he's eclipsing everything else that's going on. So
Yeah.
So let's get that out of the way. And I think I've read somewhere that they will see her after the first of the year. I think they said something about a February date, actually.
Yeah.
I don't remember where I saw it, but I did see somewhere that they were talking about a February date.
Yeah, exactly. So that'd be debuting just before WrestleMania. So,
right.
That gives her still plenty of time, and I think they want to make a big deal out of her debut, as I said, because she does. She has a fantastic look. She really does.
Yep.
She's built like bloody China. I remember China being, having that fantastic look. But no, look, this is just
theoretically they could, even if she's not doing in-ring work, even though that's their plan, they could bring her in early to start setting up a storyline before she ever touches the ring.
Yeah, they could very well do it. Yep, yeah, exactly.
Because they've done that before.
Just as I said, with her look and that, and she's very good at with the facial expressions that she can pull. She has that aura about her where she can sort of, even just showing up, she has that presence. You know what I mean? So, you can't sort of not notice her. Right. Here's this jacked woman in it, in the ring, Christ, she's big. She's bigger than some of the blokes. She'd manhandle Dom. She'd manhandle
everybody. Dom. Everybody manhandles Dom.
Oh yes. Okay. Oh yes. But let's get into unraveling the rest here. We've got a lot to unpack. We're going to do it as just a continuous one big thing here, instead of splitting it up. We've got Survivor Series. We've got some returns. We got Drew Mack and Seth Rollins' frustrations that have been shown in videos across, and we'll also talk towards the end of this whole thing about AEW and what this could mean for AEW as well, because this Survivor Series pay-per-views had a bit of a rollout effect, and so let's first talk about the actual pay-per-view itself, the matches. I thought the night started off with a bang, of course, with the women's War Games match. Of course, the team of the babyface team of Bianca, Charlotte, Shotzi, and Becky came out on top. And I picked
this went exactly as you and I called it, by the way.
I did. The only thing that we missed, right, is there wasn't anybody turning, but I think we might see it on Raw tonight, because we both picked that if Bayley was the one to get pinned, the others would look at her and blame her for the loss and look at her as the weak link. And we know that there's been hints the last couple of weeks on Raw that she's going to be on the outer and kicked out of Damage Control. And we picked it. She was the one who copped it at the end, all the finishes.
I was not at all surprised to see that she was the one that got pinned.
No, and she got pinned while everybody else was messed up. Man, oh man, this was a heck of a women's war game. It really was. There was some amazing wrestling going on. There was some amazing spots. How about that spot by bloomin' Io Sky where she put the bloomin' trash can on herself and jumped off.
Oh, that was nuts.
Yeah, she jumped up like, look, there's a human trash can coming down. Oh boy.
What was it, Osaka, who came in with the trash can lid and just lit out? And
one
of those shots looked like it really hurt.
Kairi Sane. Yeah, it was Kairi Sane.
Yeah, Kairi Sane. Yeah. One of those shots looked like it really stuck.
Oh, yeah, the bang, man. Oh, my God. Bianca, several times I was feeling for her during the match because they were ripping and pulling at her freaking hair.
Yeah. Okay, I gotta say that with her using her quote braids as whips, there's not enough power in that to hurt. Okay, that would have. I'm sorry, that kind of took me out of it. There's no way you can whip your hair around, fast enough to
No.
make it hurt. Yeah,
It might sting a little bit, but that's probably about it.
yeah,
But Shotzi just went crazy in that was a match made for Shotzi, because
Yep.
of how they're trying to portray her as this psychotic crazy person. You know
Yeah.
what? I said to my girls when we were watching it. They're like, "Oh, what's the go with her hair?" And I said, "You know what she kind of reminds me of? She reminds me of those little girls that mess up their Barbies and wreck the Barbie's hair and chop it off and I don't know, light it on fire, and then that's the hairstyle that comes, all this spiked up, hairstyle. Actually, you've kind of seen it in that.
I'm surprised they're not sponsored by LA Looks.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you could have chucked her in there as the bad Barbie in the Barbie movie. I reckon she would have fitted in. But no, I mean,
I'm surprised one of her moves isn't spiking somebody with the top of her head.
I know, because that was the other thing. I'm sitting there going, it looks like, I know it wouldn't be, but it looks, because of how spiky it is, like it'd be sharp, and she's got that much gel in it that it's hardened up to the point that it'd be like pins, kind of thing.
Well, you noticed all the landings and stuff she does, and that stuff on the back that's getting landed on does not move.
No.
It does not bend. It does not break.
No. I'm like, your hair is rock hard, bro. And then I thought it was funny, like a little skit with Dakota Kai on the outside, and she stuck the freaking kendo stick in. They had a back and forth. I seriously thought that she was going to get pulled against the cage and smack her face.
Which I thought would have been, that would have worked out.
That would have been funny, yeah. Other than that, I mean, she didn't really have. I thought she might have had a little bit more presence because she was out there. I was expecting her to maybe even climb and try and get into the match, because she's not far on actually returning herself. But no, it was a great match. It got the crowd hot. I think every woman involved did their job. They put on a show, and it was just, as I said, it was.
By the way, I gotta say just real quick, I want to know how old that ref is. He's been refing for the WWE since the 80s.
For a while, man. For a while.
He's been refing there for at least 40 years. I'm not shitting you. Okay, he's been.
He was there.
And they said his name once. They said his name once, and I meant to grab it so I could go look it up.
He'd been there, I'm pretty sure, when the Hebners were still refereeing for him.
I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was. Yeah.
And who was the other big name ref that they used to have there too? He refed in AEW for a bit too. Mike Chioda was the other one.
Yeah. Because he's been there, and he doesn't look that old. He's bigger than he used to be because age does that. But
yeah, exactly.
But he's still that little short blonde-haired dude that doesn't take any shit from him.
I know who it was. Was it Charles Robinson?
Oh yeah. So, yeah.
He used to get the nickname Little Nate because he looked a little bit like a little tiny version of Ric Flair. Actually, in WCW, they actually teamed him with Flair, and he used to come out in a little Flair robe and everything, and he was like his little sidekick there for a while when he wasn't refereeing. I thought that was quite cool. I was like, well, you know what, you two could pass off as two nature boy.
but if you think about it, he's been there for a long time.
Oh, he has.
For somebody who hasn't been a regular wrestler.
He started refereeing in the early days of WCW, because he was WCW's main referee outside Nick Patrick, and then Charles Robinson, he came over to WWE. He's been there ever since. He's still going. He looks after himself though, because he still looks good. Moves around, really well. So I don't think he's got retirement in his future anytime soon. He's still going strong. But then
he started wrestling, just so you know, he started wrestling in 1995.
There you go.
1997 with the WCW.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's been there for 30, almost.
Yeah, you said almost getting up to 40 years. He's not far away. But then, of course, we had the Intercontinental Championship match. Gunter and Miz. This was a better match than I actually thought it was going to be. I liked the pace of it. Granted, I felt for him a little bit. A hard act to follow, being the first match directly after the first War Games match of the evening. But these two actually matched up better than I thought that they were going to match. I thought Gunter was kind of going to just have his way a little bit with Miz, but no, they played this to perfection, including like Miz being cheeky with the turnbuckle pad and then low blowing not once but twice.
Right, yeah.
And it really looked like, you know, I loved how they told it. I knew Gunter wasn't going to drop the belt, but I loved how they, you know, for, you know, so the casuals that were tuning in that you know, don't get into every little nitty-gritty detail like, say, a fan like me and you do, they would have had some people believe it. Oh, is Miz going to pull up an upset here, you know? And, no, it was really good. It was a better match than I thought it was going to be. How did you feel about their match, the Intercontinental Championship match?
I thought the match was pretty good, but my issue still comes up, and I kind of talked about it last week. I don't understand what the storyline was behind for the reasoning of the match. Except that Gunther had to wrestle somebody.
Yeah, they turned the Miz babyface in this just for basically out of nowhere for the match. But I mean, they kind of had to. The wrestling was good. Everything else around it is kind of left me going, but why? Okay, where are they going to go from here? If they're bringing Miz back in to be a regular term wrestler, where are they going to go from here? And now where do they go?
That was the other thing.
The other thing.
I was just going to say the other thing I haven't seen is we haven't seen a lot of the Miz. He pops in every 3 or 4 weeks for like 2 minutes.
And you're not used. Nobody's used to seeing the Miz as a babyface. Like, is he going to stay babyface now for a while, or, you know, he's generally been a heel. But I knew
ever since he entered, right? Because he started that when he was on that reality show.
Yes, the real world. The real world.
The real world. Yeah, I couldn't remember.
But the thing is, the babyface turn was done out of nowhere, but I knew it kind of had to be done because, people have seen babyface on babyface matches, right? But it's rare, if it ever happens, you see a heel versus a heel in a match. You'll only usually see that if it's in a triple threat or a fatal four-way or a battle royal kind of thing. But very rarely, I've seen it on once in a blue moon, do you see a heel versus a heel in a match? Like just a single match.
You know what? They actually have a good reason. They have a good way they can make him babyface. Remember, he got the baby bump now. He's got the daddy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I mean, it's probably about damn time that they give him a go on that side of things. As I said, he's been a heel really from the get-go. I think maybe once, and it was a long time ago, and it was like the shortest little turn that he played a babyface for the tiniest little bit of time. So he technically really hasn't had a decent run as a babyface, and I think now's the time because, you know, as I said, he'd been a heel for so long. So let's see what he can actually do and bring to the table as a babyface.
And part of it could be because they want to see him go up against certain wrestlers, and the only way that's going to happen
is if he is the babyface. Yeah, exactly. He's pretty much as a heel, he's been through every one of the baby faces. So now it's time to see him go against heels that he hasn't. Well, he hadn't had a match.
He may not go full baby. He may not go full baby. He could go. He could go. You know, he could go gray. You know.
Yeah, he could go to gray area. Welcome back, Trin. Welcome back, love.
That would allow him to keep the attitude.
Yes.
But
yes. I like, though, that now that they've turned him a little bit, they're giving him a little bit more of a backbone instead of having him, because he's always been that scared little heel that'll come and do something and then run away, you know. So that's interesting to see, because that's a first, so that we've seen that with The Miz. We're so used to seeing The Miz.
I always thought, like a few months ago when they started that thing with him and Shinsu Nakamura, and it went nowhere. And I was like, I wanted to see more of that, because they were magnetic in the ring together, even when they were on the mic together. It was fun to watch them.
Yeah, it was. Heck, I would have liked to see more of a program with him and Ciampa when they were doing that, and I thought that just went a little bit too short, you know. But yeah, look, Honestly, I would like to see them at least just until, like, I think there's another pay-per-view before the Royal Rumble. Maybe continue this program with him and Gunter. Give him that little bit more of a, especially because you've turned him now. Because after the match that was put
Is
on,
there is, is there is there a December pay-per-view, because Royal Rumble's at the end of January?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, they didn't. Usually they announce it, see if there is. So
Yeah, they
I'm
didn't
not
announce
sure.
anything. They jumped right to Royal Rumble. Yeah.
Yeah, which would
I'll
be a
look it up here
first
while you're
because
talking. I'll look it up. Yeah.
they usually have a pay per view every month, WWE. So this would be a first
Yeah.
in a long time that they would be skipping a month. So if there's not, you could still continue the program. I mean, you could have him,
Yeah.
defended on Raw, of course. But I would like to see it continue a little bit because I'm intrigued by the little back and forth. Because I mean, Gunter takes him as a joke and thinks that Miz is a joke, and Miz is like, had this, moniker around me since the blooming get-go, and I've tried to prove I'm a multi-time champion. Well, he is. He's a multi-time champ. He's a two-time. He's won every belt, and he's done it twice. Like, so, what do they call Grand Slam champ?
Yeah.
So I think there's more story there between the two that you could. You could finish the program before the Royal Rumble, but I'd just like to see it
So
continue.
do you want me to spoil you and tell you who Cody's next feud is going to be with? Because they just kind of showed it here on Raw.
Yeah, who's he meant to be entering a feud with next?
Shinsu Nakamura.
Oh, interesting. Good.
Yep.
That'll be a good program. That'll be a good program. They versed each other, if I remember correctly, in Japan when Cody was in New Japan. Then of course, and I know you've got a few things.
By the way, yes, the next one listed is Royal Rumble. There is nothing in December.
Hey, Rourke, what's good?
Oh wait,
brother?
But so the only thing in December is the NXT deadline.
Oh, okay.
So
well, they've got a pay-per-view. It's just the NXT pay. But
right.
The next match, I know you've got a bit you want to say about this. The singles match between Santos Escobar against Dragon Lee. Escobar went on
yes.
top. I thought the match was alright. I got to admit the finish was probably the best part of it. I love that sequence at the end leading up to it. The
yeah.
But yeah, I'm intrigued as to where this is going to go because obviously, as we know, this was meant to be Santos against Carlito. And,
right, which is what I wanted to bring up. I think
yeah.
the reason they had Santos win is because they still want that Carlitos match.
Mm.
And they don't want the story to move forward until Carlitos is healthy.
Right. I just feel sorry for
yeah.
Dragon Lee because this poor bastard has been brought in. They made a big deal out of signing him. They keep making a big deal out of him. He's got Ray's endorsement. He's the next big Lucha Libre superstar. And I've seen this man lose more than I've seen him win.
But I don't think this one, because Carlito got injured, I don't think this one was planned. But I think in order to stick to the storyline, they have to make it so that Carlito can still go up.
Well, to continue and draw this whole thing out, you had to have, the heel win. And there's been rumours of the two guys coming up from NXT that will create a team with him, which is Humberto and Garza are going to be his new lackeys. I don't know when they will debut alongside. Maybe they debut alongside him on this coming week's SmackDown. They get brought up, but he's going to create a new team. I don't know if they'll go by Legado Fantasma or he's going to create a whole new name, but I'm intrigued by this storyline because obviously this is going to be I'm taking a guess here. This is going to be one of those storylines that is going to be a longer storyline because I'm guessing the end game is to have him against Ray.
Right.
And hopefully Ray's back by WrestleMania. Maybe that's the plan, hopefully. And it's going to be very touch and go because I know that was a very big injury and surgery that Ray had to have. But maybe that's what they've got in sight is a match between the two, a WrestleMania. which would be kind of, I would gather, a passing of the torch kind of thing, because Escobar, just like Dragon Lee, really is the another next big star for Mexican and Lucha Libre as well. He's a fantastic wrestler, fantastic on the microphone, really is. Him and Dragon Lee, for Mexican wrestlers, they're leading the way, especially in that promotion. So they're going to be the two guys, to sort of, I guess, they've been looking for someone for such a long time to fill that heel Eddie Guerrero type role, and I think they've found that in Santos, and Dragon Lee obviously being a perfect fit masked babyface wrestler to replace Rey Mysterio when, because Rey, I don't think Rey's going to continue to wrestle for a hell of a lot longer. So interesting. As I said, it was an all right match, but I did think the last, say, 5 or 10 minutes of it. The last 3 minutes, I'll say. To be fair, the last 3 minutes was superb. Just that. Way
and like I said in my tweet, if you need an idea for a great area rug for your house, Santos Escobar was wearing that sucker.
Yes, he was.
Can probably be found in any Hispanic market anywhere.
The disappointing match of the evening for me, and I only had one really disappointing match, was the next match. That Women's World Championship, I was expecting a far better showing, and I think they kind of stamped on Zoe Stark's progression, because I think that she should have had a lot more offense than they gave her for that. I think she was a good combatant against Rhea. Never crossed my mind that
I was going to say she seemed to stand up to Rhea pretty good. So
she
that
did.
Part of it looked good.
But I just still thought that they had Rhea kind of be a little bit over the top too dominant though. Like I was like, no, this Zoe Stark, she's a tough woman. She and she's badass. She's sort of like in the form of she's like a cross for me between like a Shayna Baszler, but then has that attitude of the Trish Stratus, that confidence attitude.
Right.
And I just wanted to see a little bit better showing like of her. Like she didn't need to kind of get as beaten on as what she did. I thought, again, like we picked it. We know they're not having Rhea drop this belt anytime soon. She'll come to Australia for the Elimination Chamber as the champion. Right. Definitely, they might have a loser out here. We've seen people lose their championship in their own home, countries and towns before, but she will have that belt around her waist when she walks out, at least at Elimination Chamber. But yeah, that was the only disappointing match of the night. I thought it could have been better, but again, like. As we said at the top, really the standout matches, as we were always well aware it was going to be, because that was what the focus, and even for the advertisement was the 2 War Games matches, and the other 3 matches were really just to fill in time in between.
And that's my biggest problem with matches like that. They're not going to go anyway, but it's like so it's a tear, because then you get into that whole the whole thing like with my favorite person, Roman Reigns, and the fact that he doesn't show up, he doesn't put his belt up. He's not going to lose it before probably WrestleMania at the earliest. But at the same time, if they do a match, that he's going to end up winning somehow, some way. And just like with Rhea, anything she does between now and whenever is she's going to end up winning, be it by by a straight win like she did, or by cheating like what usually happens. Yes. I will say it was nice to have a match without any interference.
Yes,
so she won it. She won it, showing that she could win it.
Well, I think it was always going to be that way too, because all her boys were in the main event.
Yeah.
So she really, they really didn't have anybody there to run. I mean, granted, they could have made her come up with this secret thing of one of the girls, I suppose, from out of nowhere, but it wouldn't have made sense as much as one of her Judgment Day boys. But of course, that leads us to our main event. That I personally think, again, it was another match that the starting match got it all kick-started and was great. I definitely would give the women's one a 4 out of 5 star. Then you had the 5 out of 5 star men's match. It was just phenomenal. Of course, the babyface team also came out. I loved the lead up to it because they all were getting locked in their cage, and as we know, Randy didn't come out at the start. And they played that up throughout the whole show. I thought that was brilliant. The backstage thing with Sammy. Oh, I'm worried, and Jay's like, yeah, I knew he wasn't going to show up because we put him on the shelf. And man, like even during the match, the crowd when Randy Orton's music hit just went nuts. And I know we're going to touch on something else here in a minute that we thought may have taken away from it. Because at the end of the day, there was someone else that debuted right at the end that I don't think anybody seen coming. And that was really the most biggest talking point coming out of the pay-per-view. But look, Orton, I still felt that had an amazing return. The man looked phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. As I said, he looked jacked. He looked bigger. I think.
For a man who returned after 18 months having spine fusion surgery
and that's why I think that he does look bigger. I think the doctors would have said, look, you need to protect your back.
You need to build up your core and stuff to support what you're doing.
Because he's always been, had a good muscle definition, but he's always been on that thinner side, but he looked jacked yesterday. That's the biggest I've actually seen him. But
he looked good. He kind of reminded me more of his dad now, actually.
Yeah, with his side, because as I said, this is the biggest I've seen him in build-wise, but again...
Yeah, Cowboy Bob was a big boy, too. So.
Yeah, he was. He looked phenomenal, man. Like, some of the spots of this match were just crazy. I loved where he teased, and obviously there is going to be a feud at some point where he teased he was going to RKO Jay. And then Jay super kicks, I think it's Damien that's charging behind. And Randy does the whole, gets his finger point to his head like, oh, you don't think I forgot what you did,
That's right.
And then how they threw JD McDonough off the top of the cage and Randy just beautifully caught it. I love when I see RKOs like that.
Okay, so tell me if I'm wrong. JD McDonough almost serves no purpose except he's an extra body. Seriously.
Basically.
Yeah. He's got real no story. He's got real no personality.
No.
He's got
He's just all we know is he's Finn's boy.
He's a kiss ass as far as
Finn's best, and he's Finn's best friend. That's about it. But
as far as watching him and stuff, I'm like, why is he here? He doesn't really seem like he's part of the group.
No,
but they let him hang out because they need him.
Yeah, he's the annoying. He's the annoying fly that just wouldn't go away. And, but look, the guy. One thing I will say about it, the guy can wrestle. And he had a couple of good moments in the match himself. I loved his backflip off the top rope and everything like that. That looked really smooth. And he played his part. I mean, he's a smaller guy. He plays that annoying little Nat type character.
Well, it's interesting because him and Finn are both relatively small guys compared to everybody else out there.
Yeah. Well, the only one on their side, and even then, he's still quite slender and slim. Is Damien? I mean, he just got the height really, but he's actually a skinny.
I was going to say Damien's still. I think Damien's taller than both of them. I think
he is. He's got the height. He's just his body wise, he's just a skinny dude. I think the biggest guy on their whole team last night was Drew McIntyre. If you're looking from a body,
Drew's gigantic.
Drew's jacked. Drew's jacked. I'll tell you what, I love the moment where the baby faces all got in together and did Randy's move. I
was going to say that was a nice little salute. Welcome back.
That was, man. That was cool. And Seth Rollins once again, like, hats off to this man. This man is a machine because he was in there first and he just kept going and going. I've seen him do this in Royal Rumble. This man has got a motor. When it comes. I can tell you now, I think this man, if you paced it right, he could wrestle a 2-hour match if they wanted to do a 2-hour match. He's just like an energy.
And I think you said it. You thought it'd go about an hour. I think it went just around 50 minutes.
Very close to around that. It was somewhere 40, 50 minutes, sort of around that
Yeah.
area. They all had their chance to shine. You know, the bad guys, of course, had the advantage until the end, and you know, they definitely took advantage of that. I'll tell you.
One nice thing they did too, because it was Cody's father who invented this style of match, and they had Cody pull out the leather belt.
Yes, that was good. And like when Jay came down, when Jay came down, and JD stuck his head out. I think it was JD stuck his head out.
And he slammed the door on him.
Yeah. Whack.
Okay. There's really no way to take that shot without hurting a little bit. Because he can pull back, but he didn't really pull back. I think he got hit pretty good with that door. It looked like it anyway.
Hey, what's good? What's good, Cooper? Good to see you, brother.
When
JD came down to the ring and he got before he could get into the blooming cage, he got booted. I'm like, damn.
And I didn't realize this was the first time Cody had ever taken part in a match like this.
No, which was good because, like you said, his father created it.
Which I think is why they did it, and they allowed him to have the leather belt, because that leather belt had to be set up before the match, because he just basically, it was draped there so he could grab it and pull it out.
Yeah, it was a fantastic. As I said, there was some really good spots in this match too, just like the women's match. Like when the heels had the advantage, and you had Priest do his move, then you had JD do his black flip, then you had Finn do his stomp, and you had Dom do the frog splash. Like, that was all set up properly. You know what it kind of reminded me of because of the way they did that? It was the time when you had a bunch of the Samoans back in the day, and they went to the 4 posts, and they all came off the top like that mega move. I'm like, damn, this is what this reminds me of. What was the move called? 4 Pillar Monster or something like along those lines, because you get hit at the same, pretty much nearly at the same time, one after the next. That was so smooth. Damian Priest actually earned a little bit more.
Well, and real quick, I wanted to mention, wasn't what's his name was about to do the Cody cutter on Cody, and they pulled him back.
Yeah.
So they were almost trading moves, which was cool. I like it.
And it was cool to see. This was obviously before Randy came out, and it was the time just as Randy was going to come in, and she's run down. Rhea's run down with the briefcase because they just put Seth through the table, and they were going to do the cash in, and then next minute all you hear is, "I hear voices in my head." I'm like, oh boy! I'm like, things are about to heat up now, and like you could see them all waiting for him. And he's in the ring then they just sent one. I'm like, you're going to all get messed up here because you're coming in. And sure enough, he was messing them all up until he got hit from behind. Like, oh.
Yep.
It was so, and he looked so happy to be back in that ring. He looked so happy.
Yeah, when he came on, he mugged to the camera. I tried to catch a good, clean screenshot of that. And
he let out a smile.
So cool.
And now look, talking about him quickly before we get into some other stuff, he dropped a bombshell after the pay-per-view. This may come as a surprise to some fans that know how long he was out, why he was out. He almost couldn't return. But in a jaw-dropping return, as we said, he set the wrestling community abuzz with a bombshell revelation about his future in the squared circle. So, despite WWE's controversial storyline surrounding him throughout the night, Orton, as we've well and truly seen, did not miss a beat. There was no ring run, he didn't miss a beat. And as what was happened after the match had everyone talking. So in a video that Ringside News obtained, Orton quite confidently declared 10 more years, hinting at a decade-long extension to his illustrious wrestling career. And the revelation has sent shockwaves through the wrestling universe, leaving fans and fellow wrestlers alike in awe of the possibility of witnessing another 10 years of the Apex Predator's unparalleled in-ring mastery. Which I think is fantastic. I mean, he didn't have to come back. This has been said numerous times. He didn't have to come back. He's been quite good at saving his money. He's made a lot of money. He's got a wife and kids. You know, he's a 14-time world champion. Like he has done it all. So it's not that he didn't. It's not that he had to come back. But this is in his blood. This is in his DNA. Of course, right. like most of these guys, he obviously wants to go out on his terms, and he obviously feels great to confidently say that he's going to be around for the next 10 years. Hey, what's good, back? Welcome in, brother. Welcome in. And I'm all for it, man, because he's been one of my favourite wrestlers since he debuted. And, man, he can do it all. And he's always been entertaining in that ring. So if he feels great and his back's going to hold up for another decade, I'm all for more of Randy Orton. Like, are you surprised at that comment that he believes?
No, because like I said, I was a fan of his father, and so it doesn't surprise me at all. And his father was probably one of the best heels of all time.
Yes, yeah. Him in that bloomin' broken. Well, it wasn't broken the whole time, but he kept that cast on his arm for quite some time using it. But as I said, it's in his blood. It's in his DNA. He can't.
Right.
Just stop, you know, and like I think, as I said, after what I seen and how good he looked, as long as you know he looks after himself, I could see him going another 10
That's
years.
the thing. As long as he sticks to the program and stays in shape.
Yep.
You know, I could see easily another 10 years.
Yeah. Easily.
Basically, everybody, him and some of the other legacy guys, Cody could do the same thing, but he's got to stay in shape.
Yes.
And Randy could do the same thing. Dom could do the same thing. Dom needs to get, Dom looks soft, but I don't think he is soft. I think just how he looks. That's just.
Yeah,
I think he's probably in better shape. I think he's in better shape than he appears.
Yes.
But that's just the way his body is built.
I see. We got Axel in the chat. Welcome in, Axel. Good to see you, my brother. He says the Miz was robbed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still not sold on the Miz. I've never have been, but we'll see what happens. So.
But and of course, just as everything was, usually when they put the little graphic up in the right hand corner, WWE Inc. 2000, whatever it is. That's usually the end and signaling that it's about to go to black. And we had one more surprise. Cult of Personality decides to hit over the PA system. The fans, because of where they were, blew the roof off that damn building, which was always going to happen.
Yeah.
And as the question was asked, as the man himself came out, whose city was it? That is CM Punk's town. He's the hometown boy. CM Punk made his return to WWE. When it didn't look, I'm telling you now, worst kept secret in the world, because Triple H did talk about the details, which I'll mention here in a bit. For all money, it looked like they weren't interested, right? For all money, it looked like they weren't interested. The only company that seemed in the rumors that was out there that seemed interested, I will also touch on that in a minute, because a deal also almost got done with another company, was TNA. Well, soon to be back to being TNA.
Right.
Because his friend that was also with over as backstage person AEW is now working for TNA. But CM Punk made a look. I've got to give look. Love him or hate him, he had two of the best returns to frickin' wrestling. Just the crowd reaction, like the return to wrestling after so much time out when he debuted for AEW. Again, the crowd almost took the roof off the building then. Here at the pay-per-view, it again took the roof completely off the building. The only thing, and I agree with you, I did think it took a little bit away from Orton's return, but Orton's obviously got no issue with it. At least, Orton,
At least by appearances, because I'm sorry, to me it was disingenuous because here's a guy who was out for 18 months from injury.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then here's a guy who's been out because he got fired. It's like,
exactly.
So.
And we're gonna talk about this because look, I've said before, I've been a fan of CM Punk for a long time. I've always especially loved his microphone work because it is, again, love him or hate him, it is stellar. It is stellar. Everyone remembers.
Okay, let me just say what because pretty much the only I probably would have flipped it. I would have brought him out before the beginning of the men's match.
Yes.
Let's get that out of the way, and then let Orton have his time in the sun.
I also look at it from this point of view. There was really no point during that whole pay-per-view that was good. And I'm also going to touch on, they were considering, the only thing that changed their mind is because we know how bad leaks are in wrestling. They were considering holding this out to the Royal Rumble and having him debut and return then. But they picked the moment, one, because they were worried about leaks, and two, I mean, hey, he's Chicago boy. You're in Chicago. Kind of makes sense. And that crowd all night. That crowd all night at different points. CM Punk, CM Punk. That's all you heard a lot of the time.
Yeah, regardless of how I feel, I hope they were nice enough to approach Randy and say, "Look, we're going to do this. We know it's going to take away from your response."
Because you didn't see it on the pay-per-view, but we've certainly seen it circling on social media, where fans captured Seth Rollins' reaction, as well as Drew McIntyre's reaction before Punk came out. Drew was quite considerably upset and stormed out of that match. Seth Rollins, it's come out, people were wondering, is this real? Like, because Michael Cole and Corey Graves had to hold him back. He looked like he wanted to charge up the ramp and beat the crap out of CM Punk. He's doing it purposely. He's going to remain professional. There is a little bit of heat between the two. I'm not talking the type of heat that Punk and the Young Bucks or Punk and Jack Perry kind of heat. But we all know that the best storylines in wrestling come... and it just adds to the spiciness of the promos and that, when there is a little bit of heat between the two superstars. And there is. Not enough that they're not willing to work together. That was all done. The reaction, he did it on purpose. Seth's come out and stated to start the build of a program between the two of them. I thought it was fantastic because he got the world talking. People were like, is this a work? Is this not a work? Is he wanting to rip CM Punk's head off? Like, that's brilliant acting on his behalf to do it. And look, Punk's even said it best himself. He's not the only one to say this, of course, in wrestling, but you don't have to be the best of friends to work together. You just have to be professional about stuff and, don't do stuff that, and I'm going to touch on this in a minute, where I've changed my mind on a certain aspect. As I said, I've always been a fan of Punk because I think the man's just a marvel on the microphone. He really is. I think he was a better wrestler, in-ring wrestler, back in his Ring of Honor days, but that's, of course, when he was younger, and he's obviously had to change his style, which a lot of them do as they get older. But he's on the microphone, like, he's up there. I mean, I still do. He's a new version of Rowdy Piper. He's as controversial as Rowdy Piper. He will say stuff, whatever, that it's going to ruffle feathers, just like Piper did. Piper is a big, huge inspiration to Punk, and you can actually see that. I mean, that's all I saw back in the Pipe Bomb days. I saw Rowdy Piper, he is brilliant, and look, again, love him or hate him, he puts asses in seats. He also gets the wrestling world talking. Again, whether you love him or hate him, there's going to be fans that hate him, but he's talking. People are talking, Triple H knows this.
And my only issue is, and I actually responded to Triple H post when he posted about this. By the way, that's another thing. Triple H posted a picture with him and CM Punk, being all smiley together.
Yes.
Hell is frozen over, blah, blah, blah. He didn't say one word, again, about Randy Orton coming back. There's nothing on his timeline.
No, I know.
Which, to me, again, is kind of disrespectful.
But, look, a couple things we'll get into here. So, Drew, we'll start with Drew.
Well, no, I was just gonna let me quickly finish my thought.
Go ahead, brother.
And what I said there was, I hope that he does, basically that you have done, that he doesn't do to you. Yeah, I forget exactly what I said, but it's basically like, I hope history doesn't repeat itself.
Well, it won't. You want to know why? Which I will get to shortly after we'll get through some of this stuff. But I'll tell you why and where I changed my mind, because you know my comments when the shit was going down in AEW, and as much as I like Punk, I thought, okay, he seems like a bit of a problem. But after some time has passed now, I've come back to change my opinion on that to a degree, and I've really had a bigger think about this, and I'm going to get into that shortly. But Seth Rollins stuff, look, let's get that quickly out of the way. That was just, as much as there's that little bit of heat between the two, no, that was, his reaction was just done purely because they're gonna be doing a program. It's rumoured that might be the main event of night one of WrestleMania, is Seth Rollins defending against CM Punk. So we'll see how that goes. But Drew McIntyre is the more interesting one. He's believed to be, now there's reports that he was legitimately upset over CM Punk's return. There's reports that he's legitimately just upset because of the way he's kind of being used in WWE. So it hasn't officially come out yet why he reacted the way he did at the pay-per-view, that people, again, you couldn't see it on the actual pay-per-view, but people at the event caught it. So, as we know, Punk's return's got everyone talking. Video of his comeback went viral. Tons of reactions, both positive and negative, are coming in. But it appears that not everyone is ecstatic about the Second City Saints' return to the company. Now, Drew was very, very visibly upset after Survivor Series. He left right after the match, and it was reported that McIntyre went back to the locker room and he left very, very soon after that. Wrestling Observer Radio reported where they relayed what they were told about Drew's anger. It was said to him, to Wrestling Observer Radio, that the general belief within WWE is that Drew was upset about Punk's return. And I quote from Wrestling Observers, he was very upset. As the night went on, he got less upset. Just mind you, before I continue, everyone in that main event match was informed that Punk was returning. They all knew he was returning. They were told sometime throughout the night. As for the reason why he got upset, though, after the cameras basically stopped rolling, we don't have any, official information. I'd say in a day or so we'll know. But I will say within the company, the thought process is it was because of Punk. However, again, that cannot be confirmed. There's other stories coming out that he's upset about his position in the company and the way he's also being used. But this was not a work.
I can't see him staying with Judgment Day for very long.
No, but with unlike Seth Rollins' reaction, this was not a work. He was legitimately very upset about something. Look, as we know, Punk's a very polarizing figure. It stands to reason that some people may not be thrilled, some fans may not be thrilled about him coming back. Drew may be one of them. And look,
but see, I think it's got to be something different though, because if they were told beforehand he was coming,
yes,
Drew would have had that out of his system before that point.
The Scottish Warriors
punched a locker, put a hole in the wall or something.
Yeah, exactly. Now his contract, the Scottish Warriors contract, is running up actually before WrestleMania next year. WWE has tried to strike a new deal, which hasn't been signed. He's actually come out and said he would be even happy for it to just run out, because it's been a while since he has been back to his home country. He wants to go back to Scotland for a bit. He wants time with his wife. Because she just recently lost a sister, I believe, and he hasn't had enough time with his family, and he's been wrestling and working and going right around the world for years now, so, he's had the most shortest of breaks to go back there, and, otherwise he's living out of America, and, so only time's going to tell.
Well, see, if he was Roman, he could go back there for months on end, and
Yeah, exactly. So I reckon sometime throughout this week we're going to actually find out what the reasoning is but I kind of agree with you, just because of other stuff that was leading up to that pay-per-view. He seemed to be a little bit upset with management and his storyline and stuff. So I'm going to lean more towards that than Punk. But again, that's what we know so far, just on that side of things. Now, backstage details on Triple H and Punk's conversation prior to Survivor Series. The whole deal was done very, very, very quickly. Again, Punk, as we know, he had abruptly departed WWE itself in 2014, seemingly putting to bed years of unrest within the company. You know, he even included it in his promos. And for a time, it seemed as though Punk would never return to WWE. We know that since leaving over the years, there's been times where he's kind of badmouthed them, in a sense, because he calls that entertainment, whereas he calls other promotions that he's been in actual pro wrestling. I mean, that was a part of his promo in AEW, that he left pro wrestling, you know, before he joined WWE, and he's been out of pro wrestling all this time.
Right.
And, you know, he left for sports entertainment, as he likes to put it. Reports have since emerged to say that talks with Levesque only started in the last week. Fightful Select has now reported that there was at least a conversation between them as of last Sunday. So supposedly so the pair could mend fences and stuff, because there was a little bit of, I won't say, like, again, not terrible bad blood between him and Triple H, but there was definitely some fences that needed to be a little bit mended there. But they're very amicable, evidently, with the photo, and Triple H is over the moon about bringing him back in. Punk and Levesque reportedly met with when Punk visited Raw in April earlier this year. That meeting came while the cult of personality, as we all well aware, because we all thought he was going to get in a little bit of strife. He was actually told by Vince to get out of the building. He was still signed to AEW. That's basically why Vince said get out of there, is because he didn't want no legal dramas of someone that was signed somewhere else, you know. Even though he wasn't on TV and that, but yeah. And although he was on a hiatus following the events that transpired, as we're all well aware by now, at All Out 2022. So Punk then, of course, was fired not long ago this year, with the cause after an alleged backstage incident with Jack Perry at the big UK pay-per-view, which was reported to have impacted the perception of him from WWE. Now, Paul Levesque, aka Triple H, noted during last night's press conference that almost a decade has passed. Both him and Punk are much, much different people, so it's all water under the bridge, he said. And more news coming out, of course, of the signing. There's more news and fallout here. That the former AEW World Champion returns to a WWE built with an entirely different hierarchy that he was used to. As we know, WWE merged with UFC to form TKO, and now they are under the parent company Endeavor. Fightful Select, again it comes from Fightful, has reported that WWE figurehead Vince McMahon was not a part of the decision to bring CM Punk back. Instead, the decision was solely made by WWE President Nick Khan and Chief Content Officer Paul Triple H Levesque. It's unknown whether or not McMahon would have pushed back on the deal if he had been part of the process, but it is worth noting that he had shot down that possibility of bringing Punk back into the fold when Fox was urging and pushing and begging for it. Punk did go on to work, this is of course before his AEW debut, as an analyst for WWE Backstage, but that was a deal entirely with Fox and not with WWE. Punk's return to WWE was even more surprising after his inglorious departure from AEW. And so, yeah, Vince had nothing to do with it at all.
Well, it doesn't surprise me either, because we both know that once you cross Vince, there was no going back.
Yeah.
Or at least very little chance of ever going back.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, your favourite, he came out and shared his thoughts. Cody Rhodes shared his feelings at the press conference, starting off by saying the more the merrier. And he's got he's as far as I'm aware, he's never had an issue with Punk. So Cody is happy to see CM Punk back in the fold, especially if he's willing to contribute to the product. And I quote, this is Cody Rhodes' words. He says, "I don't want to be short with my response, but it is truly is this. If he can help with where we're going and what we're doing, absolutely, absolutely. Welcome aboard," Rhodes said at the post-show press conference. He goes, "I have a feeling that the CM Punk that we're potentially getting is hungry, and that's the best Punk that we could possibly get." Of course, Rhodes understands that Punk's presence in WWE might divide the locker room. We know he's a controversial performer who originally left WWE after a fallout with Vince McMahon in 2014. Furthermore, recently being fired from AEW for a series of reported backstage disputes. Again, I'm going to touch on that in a second. But he said, Cody Rhodes said, when someone is hungry and someone wants it, that's when it's real. He goes, "I'll give kudos and flowers to Triple H and Nick Khan for getting the deal done. You can ask all the boys and girls until they are blue in the face, how do you feel? Some responses you might get up, some responses you might get down, you might have a wide range of emotions, but the first thing always is business. We're doing record business. It feels like everybody wants to be here, so the more the merrier." Of course, again, Seth Rollins has had his little stoushes in the past with Punk, but they are amicable, and his stuff was a work that's been captured on camera to start, of course, a program. He actually put in the works, actually, if everyone might remember, when WWE 2K23 came out this year, and he was doing a bit of press work for it, and they asked him the question about Punk, and he went on a spiel calling Philly Phil. He's like, "I don't like Philly Phil," and he planted the seeds all the way back then, because he wanted to work with Punk all the way back in 2014, where obviously that couldn't happen because Punk decided to leave. He's wanted to work with Punk for a long time, and these two go back to Ring of Honor. These two were in the original Ring of Honor together. That was when Seth Rollins was known as Tyler Black. And so, there has been, as I said, there has been a little bit of tiffs there between the two. Nothing too major. But again, and of course, before we get into more of the conversation here, so this coming from Ringside News, again, we've got a lot to unpack about all this. Speculation arises about Triple H revealing AEW's weaknesses following CM Punk's WWE comeback. So, we know Tony Khan fired Punk from AEW. Punk came back this weekend, and now many believe that Triple H exposed AEW with CM Punk's return. Second City Saint made his triumphant return to WWE following the War Games match, something that didn't fail to electrify the universe in a major way. CM Punk and the Elite, which is the Young Bucks mainly, it was that he had the issues with, had a lot of issues right from their backstage brawl at All Out last year, which essentially sowed the seeds of Punk's eventual departure. He also had a backstage incident, an issue with the brother of Dolph Ziggler, and the last, of course, was him and Luke Perry's son getting into it backstage as well, which was just before Tony Khan decided to, as I'll get into in detail in a minute, use Punk as an scapegoat and fired him. So the pro wrestling veteran in Jim Cornette explained that Triple H, in his opinion, exposed AEW by having Punk return to WWE. Triple H showed the world that WWE was ready to work with a man that the AEW EVPs called a cancer. And that was, and in Jim Cornette's eyes, that was only their opinion. He highlighted now CM Punk will main event WrestleMania next year, dealing in yet another blow to AEW. And I quote, this is Cornette's words, "The point is, they smell, excuse the language, the shit is blood in the water, and they're chomping on it because now Triple H has told everybody in AEW, yeah, the guy that your EVP said was a cancer and they couldn't get along with under any circumstances, they didn't want to speak to, they didn't want to meet with, they didn't want to work with, they didn't want to make up with, and their friends and minions hounded him and badgered him and booted in his door to start a fight until finally he face locked one of them. Well, now he's going to main event WrestleMania. So even as AEW President Tony Khan broke his silence, where he seemed quite down, and all he said was, I don't want to talk about it. It's been reported that Punk has signed a lucrative long-term deal with WWE, multi-year deal, and it happened days just before the Survivor Series pay-per-view. Remains to be seen now whether AEW will be able to counter what WWE has managed to do. And we're going to touch on all of this now, right now, because this is what we're talking about for the rest of the show is this now. First, before we get into AEW could be in some trouble, let's start with Punk. Now, as we discussed on quite a few podcasts back now, when it was the fallout there, look, I said the whole time, now these incidences, there was a bunch of people involved, but from all reports coming out, everything was completely lumped on CM Punk. And this is why I think he was the scapegoat. Now...
But is that still true? Because we still haven't seen hide nor hair of...
Well, this is the thing. I'll get into, and then I'll let you get into it yourself a little bit. Now, one thing I'm going to brought up, as much as Punk's very old school, right? And like a lot of the old school guys, can be very stubborn and has a certain way of looking at things. I mean, he isn't from this current era, he's from another era, right? And so I could see how that could be hard for some of this younger generation of era and the era just after, or sort of when Punk, was coming up, and that could perceive or might rub them the wrong way, right? But here's the thing that's made me sort of change my view on things. Never did he, excluding the stuff with Vince, but Vince has butted heads with a lot of wrestlers over there. He butted heads with Bret Hardy, but so it's nothing new with Vince. Vince, as we know, is well recorded and down as an asshole. So, look, he never caused any trouble when he was with Ring of Honor. He never caused any trouble when he was with TNA in TNA's very early days. He didn't seem too much of a bother or trouble in WWE. There was no incidences of backstage fights or anything like that. But all of a sudden, he goes to AEW, where the Young Bucks think they're the hottest thing and the best thing since sliced frickin' bread. And some of the other elite, and we know it's well documented that the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega will say it himself, that's why I can't understand how the heck he's friends with them, because they're at complete opposite ends of the stick. Kenny Omega's more that laid-back, cool guy, chilled. The Young Bucks have always had a very cocky, arrogant attitude. It was reported in New Japan, it was reported in their time at Ring of Honor, it was reported in their time at TNA, right? However, Mr. Mark, I'm supposed to be the boss man, of course, as we know, favours those that helped get him off the ground. Well, in reality, we all know that you wouldn't have a company if it wasn't for Cody Rhodes, because it was originally Cody Rhodes' idea. And the Young Bucks and Cody just pushed the idea because they were all friends in Japan, of course. And so no reported incidences in any prior company. Yes, could have been a little bit difficult, but not the first wrestlers you've heard that could be a bit difficult sometimes to deal with. Kurt Angle, have had their periods too. But then, again, they all stayed professional. But all of a sudden, in this one company, there seems to be trouble. Right, and I did a bit more delving, for example, into the All Out fight from last year. They came and antagonised him, right? Now, he had no control over what his friend did backstage. I don't know if it was spitting or throwing a chair. He had no control over that. That other guy was his own person. But the Young Bucks came and kicked in his door, it was said, his locker room door, and started on him. And he's just reacted, right? Just like the incident with Dolph Ziggler's brother. Dolph Ziggler's brother shouldn't have got involved. He tried getting involved in that whole situation, even though we all were well aware that there was lawyers involved and they were still going through the but he decides to stick his head into it and add his 2 cents and be smarky and make some comments because he's friends with the Young Bucks. And of course, him and Punk got into it, and Punk slammed him up against a locker in the backstage area. Do I blame CM Punk for that? No. This guy has nothing to do with that situation. Should have kept his mouth shut, right? The Jack Perry situation is, I think, more on Jack. I did say it at the time, was more on Jack Perry than CM Punk. And the only thing I said, and this is the thing I'm going to get to in a minute, that CM Punk was at fault for, being an apparent locker room leader, he should have handled it a bit better. Instead of escalating the situation, he should have de-escalated the situation. But, of course, in a heat of a moment, when someone's in your face, that can be a little bit difficult, and sometimes it's just a reactionary reaction, right? And he smacked him around, it was reported. This kid come up and arrogant and got in his face, was being quite disrespectful to someone that's been in the business a hell of a lot longer than Jack Perry, who's been in the business a whole of 2 seconds. And Punk put him in his place. But here's the thing. Out of any of these incidences, I find it funny that in an interview recently, and at least at the time with the Jack Perry stuff, the man that was used as the scapegoat is the only one who took any accountability. We still haven't heard any accountability from the Young Bucks, and you probably never will, right? You've had no accountability from Jack Perry, right? None at all. And Tony hasn't even come out, because why? Because Jack Perry was one of the originals that started with AEW, long before Punk was in there, right? And so, I believe how he handled it was poorly. The reason these incidences happened is because he is not respected as an... I've said this many times. He's not. He's not respected as an authority figure. He is a pushover. He is a weak man. And that's just factual. It's being proven. There's no other way you can say that. He can't deny it. Bischoff has called him out on it. He has no control. All the backstage crap is reminding me of WCW, and that was very much a part of WCW's downfall. He is letting the inmates run the asylum there. The Young Bucks say jump, and he basically says how high, for example. You know? And you're supposed to be the boss. You're the one who signs the checks. You need to be respected and looked at as... He needs to be like Triple A. Again, I've said this many times. You don't need to be an asshole as a boss like Vince. You can be a respected authority figure like Triple H. Firm, but fair. But no, you've got this man over here who's a mark, who's a little fanboy. That's all he's come from. He's never been in the business in his life other than on the other side like all of us. As a fan, who's trying to be friends with everybody. And you can't do that. Because you're not going to please everybody. Vince will tell you that. Triple H himself will tell you that. Right? Triple H has been in many interviews when he was a wrestler that, yeah, sure, you can make some friends in wrestling, but there's a lot of egos at play, and so it can be hard. And usually most of these wrestlers have got a small group. They're not friends with absolutely everybody they work with. Right? And so I think the fault of it is on Tony Khan, for starters, and I am annoyed that he got rid of the biggest name in that company he's ever had and sided with guys that may be names in Japan but not names outside of Japan to the mainstream audience. And again, I find it strange that there's been accountability on Punk's behalf. He blatantly came out and said, I admit, I handled the Jack Perry situation, for example, wrong. He's admitted I should have probably tried to pull my friend back, but then he was also too busy, with one of the Young Bucks in his face at the same time as another, I think his friend was going at it with the other Young Buck and Kenny, I think it was. So it's a bit of a, sort of damned if I don't, damned if I do, but, you can't exactly be in an argument with someone and there's another argument going alongside of it and you can't, hey, can we pause our crap? I got to go over here. Like, that just, it doesn't happen. But I think too much of the blame was put on him. I don't think he is a cancer at all. I just think that he's gone to a company where people just, like it was said, they didn't want to do nothing with him. They didn't want to talk to him. They didn't want to work with him from the get-go. They didn't want to bar. And I think that they instigated it because it would be very much like them because of their character, as I said, especially the Young Bucks. And he's just reacted to it. He's just reacted to it. You know, as I said, if someone's going to come and get in your face, someone's kicking in your door, but you're going to hark up. That's just an instant reaction. You really are. But I just find it funny that everything was all put on him, but yet you didn't see Tony putting anything. And then he gave the Young Bucks and that more of a slap on the wrist compared to what he did with Punk, even initially with their incident. And then the same thing with Jack Perry. You go and give him a slap on the wrist, basically. Yeah, you take him off TV, but you give him a slap on the... And you fire the other guy, but yet it still takes two to tango. You know? And so I think with this, and this is what I'm going to get to now. If there's a fan out there that thinks for 1 second that Nick Khan and Triple H didn't do their homework on all of this before signing him, then you're silly. You're thinking very, very silly, because they would have. There is no way, if they thought for one damn second that he was totally at fault and that he was the locker room cancer that the Young Bucks kept saying he was, there's no way that they would bring him back into the fold. And I don't, you know what? I agree with Cody Rhodes. I don't think you're going to find that there is going to be an incident. As I said, yeah, he butted heads with Vince McMahon. That's why he left. But, and I know, like, he had his little things with Triple H, but it was nothing major. He had things with The Miz, but nothing major. He went back earlier in April, as we know. He was there, talked to Triple H, sorted things out, mended the bridge with The Miz, right? But there was, when he was with WWE, regardless that there may have been little tiny issues, he was professional. He knows how to be professional. But again, I say, if someone's come up and getting in your face and acting like a child, and it's been numerously reported how the Young Bucks act like children. They're nearly 40-year-old grown men, but they act like kids. How is he supposed to react? You know, in the heat of the moment. Jack Perry, obviously another one with an attitude problem, a snarky little snot-nosed kid who's done nothing in the business. You're going up to a vet, and you're getting very confrontational and disrespectful. You know, he didn't come and start on you. This was all over, mind you. Jack was, again, he started this, and I said this at the time. He started it because he didn't like that CM Punk told him, I don't think it's wise to use real glass in your spot because you don't know how that glass is going to break, and we don't want to see you get really severely hurt. That's why a lot of the time, even WWE use that plexiglass, right? So he was trying to help the kid out, possibly trying to save his life, because I tell you what, if a big shard of glass goes through you the wrong way, you could bleed the hell out. So Punk was just using common sense, and Jack didn't like it. And so he spat the dummy. But I guarantee that there's not going to be an incident in WWE. There won't be. Because the other reason I say that with confidence, the management there is 1,000 times better. The stuff that happened in AEW, and me and you talked about this, Paul, if that stuff broke out backstage in WWE, I could tell you what Triple H would have done. He would have got them all in a bloody room, told them all to grow the hell up. You sit here, you be professional. I don't give a crap if you're not sending each other Christmas cards. No, this is not happening. But of course it happened in AEW where Tony Khan hasn't got the balls to do that. You know? And there's a lot wrong with that company. But now, with the two returns that happened at Survivor Series, yeah, they're in real trouble. They're in real trouble. Because WWE has the draw power, right? WWE has the massive draw power. And I'm not just talking in the men's division, in the women's, right? You go over AEW's women's roster to the mainstream audience. Can they name anybody that's a draw card there? No. You go over the men's roster. Now, while there's some fantastic guys there, right, and some fantastic legends, are the legends the draw that they once were? No, they are not. Are the guys like Kenny Omega and the coming in of Will Ospreay, who are two of the best wrestlers in the world, no doubt about it. But are they known to the mainstream? Are they going to put asses in seats? The answer is no. In Japan, yes. To the mainstream and the rest of the world, no. And he doesn't showcase them enough, or the way that they should be showcased, to turn them into these megas. MJF should be a household name, the face of the company. He should be everywhere and talked about like a Roman Reigns. But he's not, because they don't know how to market over there. That product is not looked at other than a big indie company. That's how they're viewed, because their production, for a man who's got millions and billions of dollars, their production is that of an indie company. They don't have the same type of pyro. They could have the same type of pyrotechnics and the big showcase of how even Raw's presented, but they don't. He won't. It's like he won't spend the money on that. You're willing to spend the money and fork out the money for these wrestlers, but your production isn't up to standard. Their storytelling is non-existent.
I think he's just using it as his personal toy box.
Well,
he wants to.
And I said this to someone the other day, brother, and you probably agree with me. We know Daddy is funding him. The only reason this man's got money is because of Daddy. Daddy was the big businessman. Daddy had the Jacksonville Jaguars and the European soccer team before this kid was getting out of diapers, right? And I know, yes, he is a part of his dad's businesses, but at the end of the day, your dad knows business. He knows how to run a business, right? No, the Jacksonville Jaguars may not be a Super Bowl contending team, but they have
this year they might be. Well, this year
they might.
Be,
they're getting there finally, right? Now that they finally got good coaching, they got a franchise quarterback, they're slowly there. But the fact of the matter is, they always have a lot of that stadium sold out. So he's making sales off the tickets, he's making sales off the jerseys, merchandise, you name it. Same with their English soccer team. May not be close yet. They're on the rebuild too. May not be close yet to winning the big cup over there and that. But because of how soccer crazed, or called in that country, football crazed, that the English are, they sell out their games regardless. So they're selling tickets again, they're selling merchandise, flying, right? Then you got AEW, where more money's going out than coming in, where the ratings are just, they're bad. They are bad, right? Tony Khan thought, by bringing in Adam Copeland, that was going to inject, and it hasn't. It hasn't gone or hit the way that he obviously probably envisioned it was. And I think one part of that is, there's a lot of the younger audience and casual fans, I would say, that are sitting there going, who's Adam Copeland? Because they know him as Edge, but he can't go by Edge.
Right.
Right? Sting, I love Sting. And this is not a knock on Sting, but Sting hasn't been a household name for years. He hasn't. Not since TNA was more on a bigger stage has he been, a draw. He's not a draw. Again, I'm not knocking it. Love Sting, legend, deserves to be in every single Wrestling Hall of Fame. Love him to death. Same with Ric Flair that they've just brought in. But neither one of those are draw cards anymore. Not like they were in the height of their careers in the 90s, and I'll even go as far as the early 2000s even. They're just not. Christian Cage is not a draw, right? They've got no one there that's a draw card, And Tony Khan, as I said, the reason why, and whether people like this or not, it's just truth, it's facts, that the ratings were up at the time. He had the biggest name he's ever had in there, the name that was drawing interest. Didn't matter how he was drawing it was drawing interest to that company. And he fires him and puts everything on him. And since he fired CM Punk, the ratings have gone down. Sales have gone down because there's no draw. That was the first true draw card that they had. Not even again, we love them. We love their wrestling style. That not even John Moxley and Bryan Danielson are draw cards. They're just not. Moxley's not a draw card compared to his two other brothers from the Shield, in Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. He's just not. I love watching him. I love watching him get these bleeding and getting in these hardcore matches, but that's still not doing anything. You know what I mean? I'm a big fan of Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay, but they're not draw cards compared to. Let's list off the rattle of names in WWE draw card wise: LA Knight, Roman Reigns, Jey Uso now, Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, The Miz even to a degree, right? Love him and hate him.
Yeah.
They got CM Punk there, Randy Orton there, right? That's rattling off names for men. Even you know what? Even though he might not have the greatest mic skill, but I'll even put Gunter up there because of the way they've presented him and everything, right? Then women, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, even though she hasn't debuted, but there's hot interest there. Rhea Ripley, like you name, you can keep going through it and naming names. They've got that much draw power there. And WWE always is presented because it is the big leagues as the big league. This is meant to be the second big leagues over here, but it seems like a complete little minnow. And they best be careful with the way that their trajectory is going because TNA is up on the uprise and TNA is looking to go bigger again. TNA may surpass them. TNA, I think, will surpass them. Why? Whilst I will say AEW, I think, has a better roster of talent. Nothing against TNA's roster of talent. They've got some fantastic people down there too. But TNA, right, has the better storylines. And they're a smaller company right now. But I would rather watch their stuff outside of the actual in-ring product of AEW. I would rather watch TNA. Because at the end of the day, that is a huge part of drawing interest into your product, is storytelling. This is meant to be a big soap opera. And realistically, right, the wrestling, as much as we may like it as hardcore fans, that's really secondary. You know, you want to have an interest as a fan as to why this wrestler and this wrestler are in the ring. Why are they fighting together? That's the one thing. I always tune into AEW, and we see some fantastic matches, but we're left sitting there going, why? Why are they versing each other? I mean, a match recently
Which
happened.
was the question I asked about the Miz match, which was the question I asked about
But that was the first for WWE that we could really say that. But you look at the big match that they did weeks ago, AEW, with Kenny and MJF. It was just thrown together, all because MJF was about to surpass Kenny's reign of days. But it was literally thrown together. There was no reason. It was out of the blue, and there was no reason. Kenny confronted him out of the blue, out of nowhere. Wasn't involved in MJF storylines whatsoever. And I was left sitting there going, fantastic match. I would have loved to seen a heck of a build for this. But why are these two versing each other? Why? What's the point of this? You know, and they've done that so many times where, as again, you have some fantastic matchups between some fantastic wrestlers, but there is absolutely no build and no storyline. And I'm starting to wonder if he cares. Because surely there's been people, or he's even heard the noise from the Bischoffs and the Bully Ray, Bubba Ray, and Mark Henry's even said some things. Wrestlers and people in the industry have talked about this. And Tony just seems not to be paying any attention whatsoever. He also takes a lot of pages, for some reason, out of a company that's dead. And follows a lot of what WCW did. Well, what good is that going to do to your company? Where's WCW today, Tony Khan? Where is it? It's in the graveyard. Vince bought it out. And you're doing nearly the same things. Making the exact same mistakes. You know, like... And now with this, I really think when they asked him for comment, I think it was yesterday after Collision, the reason why he looked down and he couldn't answer is I think he's regretting firing CM Punk.
Maybe.
I think he is.
I'm also wondering if because the Jags are doing better, that he's taken his eye off wrestling a little bit.
Possibility.
That he's backed away for good or for bad at that point.
Because,
if he's backed away and left him hanging, that's bad.
If you're a wrestling fan, and I'm going to talk about the people involved here. Are you going to tune in for CM Punk? As I said, whether you like him or hate him, he makes you talk. Or are you going to turn in for the Young Bucks? Are you going to turn in for a Jack Perry? Are you going to turn in for Dolph Ziggler's brother? Who, there you go. I have no interest in him. I can't think of his damn name at the moment. Other than I know he's Dolph Ziggler's brother.
Well, just let me say that I'm not immediately going to go on they made the wrong decision, WWE made the right decision. Because for me, CM Punk needs to prove himself. And after the spotlight is dimmed on him a little bit and it's not all about him coming back, is he going to still react the same way when it's not all about him anymore? Because right now it's all about him.
Yeah, it is. So, I get that. I get where you're coming from there. And look, I think he'll be all right. Because, look, I do actually think legitimately he did want to help that company grow. I do think he wanted to help some of the younger talent there. But there were certain people in that company that made things difficult in his time there for him to be able to try and do so. He had no problem.
But like we both talked about, some of it may come down to his quote, leadership style, too.
Yeah, which he is.
Yeah, he honestly wants to help, but he doesn't necessarily know how to go about it.
No,
in the right
has.
Way.
He's admitted that he's got a very hard-nosed, old-school approach. It's because of who he was trained by. He's like that, and he's trying to relax on a lot of things, which can be hard for some people to do when you've had a lot of stuff instilled in you and you've kind of sort of been that way the whole time, which has obviously worked. It's worked up until this point for him until he hit AEW, and then it's obviously, some people haven't liked that. But I had a feeling from the get-go, the minute it was announced that he was signed, that he would butt heads with the Young Bucks. Because of, look, they butt heads and rub people the wrong way. They just do. They do. I love their in-ring stuff. I do. I think they're great in the ring, but their attitude stinks. They think that they're bigger than what they really are. You may have been big in Japan and made a name for yourself over there, but you're a nobody compared to the mainstream audience. They've never been in WWE, so most of these casual wrestling fans, and especially the younger fans that pretty much all they watch is WWE, they wouldn't have a clue who the Young Bucks are. But in the Young Bucks' heads, they think they're on the Dudleys level or the Hardys level of notoriety, and they're just not. Don't get me wrong, I said, it's only because I'm a hardcore fan. They have had some amazing damn matches. And it's like my boys, who we lost one of them, God rest his soul, but long-time legendary Ring of Honor tag team, the Briscoe brothers. Well, to the mainstream audience, nobody knows them.
Right.
You watch,
and that's the same with almost every entertainment business. There are big movie stars in Japan and stuff that big movie star in the new Godzilla movie, and we have no idea who the hell he is, but they all go for it,
exactly. I get it. And so that's what I mean. Like, look, he's even got Jericho over there, but not even he's a draw card anymore. He's just not. We love him. But we're hardcore fans. But you can't just present your company to the hardcore fans. If he wants that company to grow, if he wants that company to get remotely close to being on WWE's level, he needs to cater to every kind of fan, and he just isn't.
Well, no, and I don't think he's advertising as well as he could be too.
No, he's not.
Because, like I said, they're in. You and I will both agree their in-ring or wrestling is awesome. Where are the clips every week on Twitter or whatever showing
exactly
some of that?
But like, for example, as I pointed out, I don't think he's handling I know we just recently found out that by the looks of things, he's just re-signed a lucrative long-term contract. I'm wondering now if he may have made a mistake in MJF, but he needs to be the John Cena of that company. Like, he needs to market the hell out of him and push him and do all of what WWE does with their top guy. He needs to be doing that exact same stuff.
Yeah.
And people need to go, hey, you know why I tune into AEW? At the very least, I tune in because of Maxwell Jacob Friedman. He needs to be a household name. And he really should be, because he has the charisma. He has the personality to be that guy for your company. Right? He's now the longest running world champion.
And I think part of it is he needs to, yes, he's the owner, he's the COO or whatever, but he needs to have somebody in there like Triple H to basically, be the face, actually run the company.
Because honestly, and you'll probably agree with me on this, I don't think the man has a clue of what he's doing. The only thing we can sit here and give him credit for, and we both have given him credit for, yeah, you can put a match card together. But that's it.
Right.
That's it. Your production, if for somebody that's supposed to be the second big company, your production doesn't match that. Your production's crap, right?
You know what? But if the storyline and the matches match, the production can come last.
Yeah, it can. It can. And storytelling, it's just not even there. It's just not there. Look, I said it even at the last pay-per-view. I thought their most intriguing storyline that they had going was this whole MJF and who the heck's under the Devil Masters took him, right? And he just dropped it. He's just dropped it. And now the forefronting storyline now that's been pushed, especially as of Collision, and I don't think it's been handled that great either, is the Edge and Christian storyline. And I feel sorry for bloomin' Adam Copeland, because, you know, he is a legend, he is a big name, but again, because
Tony, well, you know what I was going to point out, he runs the AEW almost the same way as he runs the Jags.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why the Jags haven't been able to do that well year after year after year, because, like you said, he doesn't seem to really know what he's doing.
No. No. He's a fan with a dream, and he may have these ideas in his head, but he can't put it into action, or it doesn't come out probably even the way that he's probably got in his head. Like,
I mean, you're a football fan. It's like Al Davis was with the Raiders.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
You know, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't come up with a winning team because he was not good at running a team.
No, I look, when it comes to them too, I don't know if his son's much better.
No, his son is not. And his son has the world's worst haircut.
Oh my God! Yeah. Let's not get into that. He reminds me of a redheaded Mo from the Three Stooges.
Pretty much, yeah. That sums it up.
But no, look, Tony.
But it's the same fault. It's the same idea. That
Tony needs
have all this money, all these resources, and you're not doing your best.
No, you're not utilizing. And I think this is just a belief. I think Daddy Shad Khan it's gonna get to a point where he's gonna go, you know what, Tony, I'm pulling funding. If you want to keep funding it with your own money, which will eventually run out, that's fine, but you're not getting my funding anymore, because Shad's a businessman, and like any businessman, likes to make money. And right now, that product is, as I said, the Jags are making money. They are making money. The soccer team, that's making money, and all of their other Shard's other business, that makes money, right? But he's losing money, right there, and that's not the only thing I'm going to point out. If things continue to go the way they're going, ratings-wise, it's going to come to a point where TNT and TBS go, sorry, look for another network, look for another home, because you're not doing the numbers that we need you to do.
Right. And that may actually even be in the contract.
Yeah. And that's why that's why a lot of changes have to happen. Story-wise, the storyline-wise is first. But the biggest thing of all before any of this can happen, you need to grow a set and be the boss. You need to have
or like I said,
control.
if you can't be the boss in the locker room, get somebody as a middleman like Paul.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what? He had a person there that would have been a very respected authority figure. That I'm telling you now, the shit with the Young Bucks and Jack Perry and all that wouldn't have flied. Arn Anderson, the enforcer.
Yeah.
He should have.
Oh yeah, Arn because everybody knows who Arn is and everybody respects Arn. And,
he wouldn't have allowed that to escalate, right? He wouldn't have allowed the Young Bucks and Jack Perry to act so immature and childish. I mean, I could imagine him being the old school he is. He would have had some very, very interesting words for them to wake them up, because he doesn't mince his words. And what did Tony do? He let him go. Both him and his son aren't there no more. If he hasn't got the balls to do it, then, like you said, he needs to hire someone, because if these incidents keep going, and they might very well creep up again, because, as I said, the Young Bucks can rub people really the wrong way, and obviously Jack Perry can too with his attitude. And, for a little while there, I gave Jack Perry a little bit of an excuse, because he did lost his dad, and that can do things to a young person. I know, I understand he is only a young guy, but that's only going to get you out of situation, or get you some good grace for so long. Right? You need to start maturing up, I could just imagine.
Well, maybe we need to get a hold of Tony, because, I live here in Jacksonville. Their headquarters is not that far from me,
No. Oh, exactly. Someone, like, as I said, he can't be that stupid. Like, he's got to hear what Bischoff's saying. Look, he should be listening to Bischoff, because Bischoff's been all through this.
Right.
He's been pointing out where he's going wrong.
Well, I think in Bischoff's case, the message might be correct, but the method of delivery might not be correct.
Look, he won't mince word. He did initially.
No, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
He initially did like Tony Khan, and then Tony pissed him off. Right. So now he won't hold back. He'll call Tony Khan name and everything, right? But he's not wrong every time he comes out and talks about Tony and that way Tony's running things and that company, because there's a lot wrong, and I don't want it to be like WC. I don't want it to disappear, because at the end of the day, competition is great. We know that. We know what happened when WCW went away. The WWE got lazy because they didn't have to try as hard, right? That was just facts, right? I'm not saying it was really piss poor, but they did get a bit lazy because they had no competition. And the other thing is, it's great to have that other big company, because there's so much freaking talent out there. Not everybody can be showcased all in the one company. So it's good for another big place for these superstars, men and women, to be showcased. And I think we as fans, and I think the wrestlers themselves, they need AEW to be that. It is meant to be the second big company. And again, as I said, I'm not saying all this because I want it to go. I don't want it to go away. I think, as I said, he can put a match card together. That's a positive. I think the in-ring product itself is a positive, right? I do. I think they've got some of the best wrestling. But, I mean, so New Japan has some of the best, and that's who they've sort of copied after. And so the in-ring product is lovely. I can say with confidence the only reason I tune into AEW programming every week is for the actual in-ring product. Not for the freaking story, because it's just, the stories are just shit if they are there, but they're basically non-existent. It's for the wrestling, and that's the only reason. But there is a lot wrong, and if he ain't going to be willing to make changes, if he ain't going to be willing to really do some homework and hire some people in some positions that's very, very much needed, and this company and him keep on the same path that it's currently on, then as sad as it is to say, I envision in the next 5 years it will be in the graveyard. Because if they lose Shard's funding because he's not seeing a profit, not seeing, it improve. If TNT pull the plug, then where is it? Where is it? It's, and
Yep.
and it's not going to be one of those situations where I don't think WWE will buy it or anything. I think it would just die.
Right. Yeah, that part's not going to be like WCW. They're not.
No.
They don't
Because
see a reason
they
to
haven't
pick it
been,
up.
because they haven't been around long enough for even the tape library to be worth anything. The only thing that will happen is WWE would then would sign some of the talent there. If that talent wanted to sign there. I mean, we know they were right up in it with Will Ospreay. And I have a feeling, as I said, if things don't start to change, he's another one, just like MJF, that's probably going to regret that he signed there and not with WWE. Right now, WWE is the hottest thing going. It's on a real big resurgence. First time in a long time, these last few years, it's really drawn interest back into that product. And that's all thanks to Triple H. Because unlike Tony Khan, that man knows how to run a business. That man knows how to draw attention. That man knows how to delegate and has.
I was gonna say he also knows how to listen to those around him.
Yeah.
And not just
exactly
do what he wants to do. Yeah.
And as I said, I think this Punk signing is really going to hurt AEW. I think it will. More than what some people out there or a lot of people out there may think it will. I think it will. And because, again, WWE knows how to present all their superstars. WWE knows how to make people that they're really pushing household names.
Right.
Tony doesn't. That's lost on him. And, again, if that's another area that doesn't change... I mean, the product is really outside the wrestling is boring, and it's just, probably a lot of people's eyes from a mainstream point of view is just not watchable. Like maybe the in-ring stuff to a lot of fans out there just isn't enough for them to go over and watch, because they're used to these, and this has been for quite some time. Me and you can go right back to the age. They're used to these big, flamboyant characters, larger than life superstars with personalities, and he's a real bad guy and he's a real good, and then the storylines and the way that they're portrayed and played out, that's what we're used to. As I said, it's a big soap opera.
Also remember though, back then they didn't break character when they were out in public. That's changed as well.
That has changed. Yeah. But even so, WWE, you can still say, is still a big soap opera. Like, you're watching it, and you're seeing people do stuff to each other. I mean, look at the Judgment Day storyline and stuff like that. And it's getting you interested, right? It's getting you interested. And it keeps your interest, because you're intrigued. Okay, what... And at least you walk away and go, so that's why these two are going at it, or why these two females, or this group of females is going at it, because they as I said, it's a big show and dance. That's the whole point of it, it's all choreographed stuff. It is. It's acting, hence why some of these wrestlers have gone into Hollywood, because you are essentially acting a character on the screen. Tony Khan, basically all the wrestlers there are just basically being themselves. There's no larger-than-life characters there. Well, I pointed out to Trin, right? I remember back in WCW and WWE, both promotions, Chris Jericho had all these cool catchphrases, and he had a character and everything. Now I just look at him as, you're the rock star looking dude that runs around with a blooming scarf around your neck. But, when he came into WWE, he was Y2J, the Millennium Man, the Ayatollah of rock and roll. You know, and then he had the list thing. You going on the list? Like, you know,
Yeah.
You've got none of that. It's like there's nothing. There's just nothing there. I mean, yeah, okay, in the AEW a couple of times he's called himself the demo guy, but nothing oomph behind it. No pizzazz. Nothing. Like, Brian Danielson, like, yeah, the crowd's still sort of on a quieter note, really. Trance, yes, but nothing like, because he was presented better in WWE, see?
Right.
You know, as the green thumb, basically saved the earth, you know, kind of guy, you know, and, you know, it's, yeah, even Sting.
I'm totally going to break your train of thought, but I got to mention this. So, after coming back to the ring Saturday, guess who's wrestling tonight? Randy Orton is actually hitting the ring tonight.
Nice. He'd be, as I said, he'd be chomping at the bit, man. He's
yeah.
He's been waiting 18 months, man. That's a long time.
No, but that's impressive that he's, you know, he's not wasting any time.
But hey,
let's play.
The reason, as I said, we touched on, I think it was last episode, the reason why he hasn't got any ring rust, he has been for the last several months at the Performance Center. So...
And getting a better look at him tonight, he's stacked. You're right, he's built.
Oh, yes, bro. Yeah, he is the most jacked I've seen him. But again, he was probably told that to help protect his back and stuff. So, but he looked good. He looked really, really good. And as I said,
so if this goes well, he's going to turn Dom into a pretzel in about 5 minutes.
You know what? I need to see it, and we know how good he can do the arcade. We need to see Dom coming off the top rope to do a frog splash, and Randy catches him.
Randy's big enough to do that. Can't even deadlift him at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, man. No, because I always love it when someone's coming off the top rope or the ladder and Randy does the RKO on them. Like, because it always looks devastating.
So let's go back to the women's match real quick. Or maybe it was the one where she picked up the big girl, and held her over her head. Like, that is a strong that is, yes.
No, that was.
You usually don't see the women do that. You know, that's usually a guy thing.
No, but she did, man. Like, and some of those women, they might not look much, but I tell you what, they got some strength. I tell you, you know.
Yep.
You know, obviously Rhea's a bigger build girl, and so is Raquel, and obviously the incoming.
Yeah, but
Jade
to actually
Cargill.
see them do that, and they get help because the person being lifted does the push off of the.
Oh yeah, I mean,
but still,
because I'm telling you now, I know John Cena's a strong lad, but without Big Show jumping for him, there's no way he would have been able to lift him. Just like I'm talking dead set, lift him off the ground. There's just no way.
Yeah, no.
like back in the day with, I know Hulk Hogan. I don't like the guy, but I know was strong. But there's no way he would have been able to scoop slam Andre unless Andre bounced for him.
And that's what they said. Andre was willing to do that. So.
Oh yeah, because there's no way. If you just said, "Hey, Andre, put all your weight into your legs and just stand there," Hulk, you try and there's no way Hulk's lifting him up. No way any man's lifting that man up. That man was he was even bigger than Big Show. He was a giant of a man.
No, at that point he was, I think, 460 or some god.
Yeah, but he was still 7'3", 7'4", and this is the man. And this is why I still love listening to Ric Flair. Ric Flair has some of the best stories. I was listening to him on a podcast recently, and you probably remember this too, because you can go back as far back as me. When they were on a really long international plane flight, and Andre the Giant drank 100+ beers, bro. And Rick said, "Was this man drunk or tipped?" Not even close. I'm like, damn. But of course, his body may have reacted differently because of the pure size of the man and everything, you know. But he was just putting them away like they were water. Rick even said there was a few matches where we were backstage, you know, going over a match. Andre's sitting there drinking a couple of cans of beer. And then he'd go out and just wrestle. And Rick was a little bit worried, like, surely he's going to be a bit tipped. Nah. He put on a hell of a show and went through all the motions like he was meant to do. I was like, damn, he must have had a really good tolerance to alcohol. You know, again, I know he's a big man, so he has a lot more body for all the alcohol to travel through and everything. His head was big, his hands were big, and but just hearing that story.
Going back to it, and I'm gonna have to go in a minute because I gotta go, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But going back to it real quick, I mean, I hope Tony gets it together. I hope this is a wake up call for him. You know, I don't necessarily agree with all your points. Like you're giving. I think CM Punk was part of the problem. I think because he did let his head get a little too big, but maybe this will correct it. I don't know. But you know, but I do think that, and that's what I think. I hope it's in his contract that, look, dude, you cannot do over here what you did over there. If you did that, because if you do it here, you know, there's the door. Don't let it hit you on the way out. You know.
No. Yeah. Exactly.
And also, if you get pissy, no walking out in the middle of a pay-per-view again.
No.
Or no doing that no-show shit for 2 shows like he did back in the day, which is what got him in trouble with Vince, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not.
Because every time you do a no-show with Vince for 2 days, he's calling and thinking that you're going to be on America's Most Wanted because, you know.
Yeah.
Because every time Vince has had a problem with a wrestler like that, it's because they have to do a welfare check. You know,
yeah, they do.
Crap.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, here we go again, you know.
You know, and as I said, like the reason why I'd give him credit, I mean, he's took his, you know, stood up and admitted where he was wrong or where he may have went wrong. So he's taken some accountability, but nobody else involved in any of those incidences. You haven't heard a peep from anybody else. And you haven't heard, and as I said, he got treated differently to the others. The others involved in all these 3 incidents got slapped on the wrist.
And to be the devil's advocate, they may have been told, don't say a fucking word.
Possibly.
By Tony. They may have been told, don't say a damn thing.
Another thing I'm annoyed at Tony Khan about is Kenny Omega, who was involved in the first incident. Him and Punk wanted to bloody sit down and have a talk, just one-on-one with each other and sort stuff out, and Tony wouldn't let it happen. And I'm sitting there going, if they're both willing and wanting to, then screw the lawyers, screw your own opinion, and let them talk. Right. At least that would have been at least one part of that whole scenario that could have got sorted. Yeah.
Remember, we heard it was because the lawyers said, well, then get better lawyers, because you know.
Because these guys obviously wanted to go over the top of their lawyers to sort it out, you know. Because, like Kenny said, and I've seen interviews with him, he didn't have a problem with Punk. And even in that whole thing with the backstage thing at the All Out last year, I mean, it was sort of minimalised with him. And it was more Punk and Ace Steel, that's Punk's friend I was trying to think of earlier, and the Young Bucks. And Kenny would just happen to be there, obviously, because he's friends with the Young Bucks. And he tried to de-escalate this, but because he obviously was involved and obviously had to be a part of all the lawyer crap as well. But he's like, I don't need lawyers. And Punk's turned around, he don't need, Phil said he doesn't need lawyers, we can talk. And they wanted to talk and hash things out because there'd never been issues prior and before, and they just wanted to get water under the bridge and get past it. Which probably, if anything, could have helped the situation a little bit more, because Kenny then could have got in the Bucks' ears and say, hey, you two boys need to grow up and calm the hell down. Look, I can sit down with the man and we can, you know, bygones be bygones, water on the bridge. Let's start acting professional. Like, the wrestling world is hearing all this and seeing this. This ain't a good look even on your behalf. He might have been the only one to get through to them, because they've been friends for so long and been on the road for so long, the Young Bucks with him. And so, you know, unfortunately, Tony didn't allow that route to happen, you know. And, he, you know, Kenny's one of the top dogs backstage. But as I said, he's more approachable, he's more easygoing, he's more understanding. And that's why sometimes I sit back, I'm like, how are you friends with 2 guys that are completely different and at the other end of the stick and spectrum to you, like attitude and everything wise? You know, they're all nearly 40-year-old grown men, but Kenny actually acts his age and the Young Bucks act their shoe size. As I said, and that's like you said, like, okay, you feel yourself that, Punk had his faults there, and again, at least he took accountability, but the others also were at fault too, and they've just never taken accountability, and they're still there, which means there's still problems. Tony may have thought, I got rid of Punk, so that's the end of the problem, but you've got problems still there in the Young Bucks and Jack Perry, that's for sure, because unless those three attitudes change, I'm sure at some point we're going to hear that there's been another backstage with another wrestler or a couple of wrestlers, So I actually think the person that he got rid of isn't actually the bigger problem. I think he should have got rid of, maybe not Jack Perry, maybe, young guy, first kind of incident, and give him sort of a reality check, but, not fire him. But I think he should have fired the Young Bucks. As much as I said, as I like watching them in the ring, he should have fired the Young Bucks. Or at the very least, if you're going to fire Punk, you should have fired the Young Bucks too.
Right.
I know that you're buddy with them and everything, and they're your EVPs, but they really shouldn't be EVPs, and there's all people in the business, including fans themselves, that have been screaming at Tony to take that title off of them, because they obviously, if you're EVPs, you shouldn't be acting the way that you have acted, and certainly shouldn't have been acting the way you acted backstage at All Out. That's not
right.
that is not the actions of an EVP of a company. When Cody was an EVP there, you certainly didn't hear stories of him acting a fool.
No.
No. Right? So that's what I mean. Like, they should be, if they can't act right, and Kenny, you've never had any incidents with any reports about him acting a fool, acting childish or whatever, or immature, and he's in that position. So as I said, I'm happy for him to stay in that position. He does a wonderful job at it. He's very approachable. All the wrestlers, male and female, love him. They can talk to him. And he's great, especially for their games, everything. But those other two boys, they got to go. And if you can't fire them, well, then from the company as a whole, you at least need to say, no, we're giving you positions to other people. You can't be.
And if you can leave Jack Perry sitting at home for what had it been 3 months now, Yeah.
Put it this way, that's got to be a wake-up. I'm hoping that's a wake-up call to the young man, because if he comes back and then there's another incident with someone else again, I'm sorry, bye-bye. Out the door. Goodbye. Because it should not be on. As I said, if this happened in WWE, there would have been a lot harsher punishments, and it would have been handled a lot more swifter and a lot better. Because from top to bottom, you have tenfold better management. And that's why I think you won't have an issue here.
And I will say at this point, it's a balancing act, too. I mean, WWE can afford to, suspend or punish 3, 4, 6 people, and the show can go on. AEW does that, and that's half their roster.
Exactly. But in wrapping up, look, I don't think we'll have a problem with Punk. The only way I would be a little bit worried, like yourself, that an incident may occur is if Vince was still there. But I think there is respect there between him and Triple H. I think the management in place there is a lot better, and I think that he will have a lot easier time of it there. And look, he's going to want to, like as I said, he knows the mistakes that he made in AEW. He's not going to want that to be the lasting impression. He's probably wanting to look for a Hall of Fame shot as well eventually.
I think since he doesn't have the other thing that will slow him down is if he doesn't have a position of power here. He won't. He's just another.
There's only we already know no one in that company does except for one person, the man who sits at home most of the time.
Which is a whole nother, that's a whole nother thing for me.
The day he goes to Hollywood, it will be great. But no, look, I think everything will be fine, and I think Punk, he would have learnt from his own mistakes there, and he'll want to go out the right way, and he'll want people to have a nicer memory of him there. I don't think he'll. I think the multi-year deal might be like a 4 or 5 year deal at most, and then, that should be enough time for him to have some good big feuds, maybe win a world title in there, get his Hall of Fame ring, and then he'll head off into the sunset. But at least it's a better way to go out, you know what I mean, and rectify some situations. And look, as I said,
and like I said, my test for him will be his reaction when it's not all about him. But
there's obviously maturity there. I will say that there's obviously maturity on his part there. Like, he's obviously not a spoiled brat like the Young Bucks, because you know, he was willing to sit down, hash things out with Triple H. We know in April he was willing to sit down, hash things out with The Miz. I'm quite sure if there's anybody else there that's got a problem, he's obviously willing to sit down and hash it out. He obviously doesn't want to, you know, have any of that bad blood there and stuff like that. And some wrestlers, like, they go through that for years and years, and then they hit a certain age and they're like, you know what? This is all just ridiculous. I really need to sort stuff out, you know. And I think he might be hitting that point of his life. Like, it's no good holding all these. He has said in an interview, he goes, it isn't good for your health holding on to some of these grudges and, you know, and that. So, and he's already proven that with the WWE, people in WWE. So, I think if he continues to do that and he just keeps his head down and, you know, and enjoy your bloody time. That's all I'll say to the men. Enjoy your time. You've got some excellent people you can have some excellent feuds with. We know towards the end of the AEW stint there, he was looking great. He looked better again. Like, as I said, he looks a bit more jacked too. Although he had a shirt on, but he did look, to me, a bit bigger. Yeah, we'll see how it all plays out, but I hope for the best, and I hope we get some really, really fantastic feud. I think this first feud, by the way they're setting it up with Seth and him, is going to be off the chain. I really do. Like, that's going to be some great back and forth on the microphone. And also another thing, I think the WWE style is going to suit Punk now at his age too. We know it's a lot easier and softer on their bodies. Hence why there was so many people calling for Kenny when his contract was up to go over there, you know, because he's starting to head into the 40s, and it would be a lot easier on his body, that type of style, than the AEW New Japan hardcore style. He's done that for so long, so no, I think you'll because in WWE, as we know, it is first and foremost more about the character. It really is. So no, hopefully we will see some great matches. But that's all we got for you, folks. We had a lot to unpack because, as I said, there were a lot, not just a pay-per-view, a lot happened over the weekend, and had to get through that and what we thought, and of course everybody's reaction, the wrestling world's reactions. As I said, like we said, if anybody from AEW is listening, changes need to be made, or it's going to be bye-byes, which will be sad to see, because as I said, it's great for fans to have that second big company as competition. Drives both companies when there's competition, and it's great for the wrestlers because they'll have two places that if they can't, you know, WWE can't fit them in there because they've got an overblade, they can go to AEW, they can have their face on mainstream, you know, make a name as well. So it's good for everybody. But Paul, did you want to let the fine folks know absolutely everywhere they can find you?
Let's see. So you can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at CerebralPaul1. You can find me at Twitch at CerebralPaul, and on Tuesday afternoons, 12:30 Pacific, 3:30 Eastern, you can find me on Twitch on the Xbox Ambassador channel. And then on Mondays, sometimes Wednesdays and Thursdays, you can find me here for Pop-Up Powerbomb Wrestling, and then the Backlog Bastards, and of course 4GQ TV. And on Fridays, you can find me Wasted with Wise.
Wasted. How'd that go the other week, by the way? Did you get drunk?
Oh yeah. Well, let's say I didn't get drunk. I got relaxed. I got
relaxed. I love it.
Yeah.
Of course, you can find me right here, folks, on the 4GQ TV channel. Of course, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. You can catch me and Paul here every week, and as well as a lot of other great content, All Women's Podcast, 4GQ Podcast, and a bunch of amazing interviews. So do subscribe, hit the notification button, and check it all out. But other than that, you can catch me here with Paul every Monday evening with the Pop-Up Powerbomb podcast, where we talk wrestling, of course, all sorts of wrestling. And Wednesdays with the Backlog Bastards, where Paul sometimes joins us. Otherwise, there's also Ryan, Resident Gamer Zero, he's known as on the app formerly known as Twitter. And hopefully this week we've got him back, old Charlie Hustle. He's had a bit of a rough time himself, health-wise. Hasn't been too good lately, especially with his back and pain and etc. And but do tune into that as well. We've got a big Christmas episode coming up in a few weeks too, where Paul's already going to be in the chat. He's going to be trying to go for the codes. We're going to have 2 codes.
By the way, one of our shows in a few weeks is on my birthday, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so December 18th is my birthday, so we got to do something.
Nice. Definitely be early Christmas, brother.
Yeah.
But yes, we're going to have a code for the Avatar game coming from Ubisoft, of course, which from everything being shown off so far looks absolutely fantastic. And we will also have another code for another interesting game that's coming out, I do believe 8th or 9th of December it hits, is The Day Before. So do jump into that Backlog Bastards Christmas episode, and you could have your chance at winning one of those game codes for 2 really interesting, different games. As I said, Avatar, obviously, if you watch the movies, you know what that's going to be all about. And The Day Before is an open-world survival zombie game. So do check that out. But until then, folks, I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their evening or day wherever you are. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week. And, of course, wrestling fans everywhere around the world, enjoy the rest of the wrestling this week, because it's going to be some really good stuff, especially with the two debuts, returns, I should say, that happened on the weekend. All right, everybody. Good night.